With cautions and carnage ruling the day at Road Atlanta, the team showed up at Mid-Ohio hoping for fewer bent fenders. Dan Rash was able to best Kimmo Suominen for the pole, while the Finn began beside him in second. In the ST class, none of James Stevenson's main rivals bothered to show, leaving him with a stranglehold on first in qualifying. Josh Loitz took advantage of the situation and filled out the front row. When the green flag waved, the GS cars weaved through madness cleanly. Soon after, the ST class took the green behind them, and Loitz saw an opportunity heading into China Beach. The number 60 car managed to snatch the lead on lap 1. Stevenson was not so generous the next time by, and the Aussie took his traditional first place back. While the red and green car became a spec, the 4 cars behind him began what would literally become a race-long battle for second best. Even though the ST class was no contest, Kimmo spent the first half of the race quietly stalking Rash for the GS lead. When the two pitted at the same time on lap 23, the Finn managed to undercut the number 35 Mustang and just snuck out into the lead. Dan made an immediate and aggressive charge, and the two made contact. Suominen held on, but before things could get any hotter, the caution flag flew. Wes Eric and Hang Ho Tao had tangled on the front stretch. A number of drivers attempted to hop into the pits before the yellow was thrown, but the gamble backfired and the two V-Apex cars were sent to the end of the line for entering a closed pit lane. Once the field came back around for the restart, it was Suominen leading the way. Rash had a good run, but Kimmo returned the aggressive favor by running the Frito-Man car all the way to the wall. The two phenoms raced side by side, corner after corner, and it was clear something would have to give. It all finally came to a head in madness when the two Mustangs touched and the number 18 was spun around. With 30 minutes left, pit stops were over, and Kimmo was now faced with the unenviable task of overtaking the entire field if he wanted to catch Rash. As the laps clicked off, the Finn began to demote cars one by one. With less than 7 minutes to go, he had reached fourth and began to hunt down Randy Chenoweth to try and salvage a podium. Kimmo hounded the Californian at every corner, desperate to get by. With a sense of deja vu, the two came into madness on the final lap, side by side. But this time the Finn prevailed and continued his streak of finishing every race in the top 3. Up ahead, Travis Mim had utilized his excellent pit strategy to finish second, and Dan Rash easily obtained win number 2 of the season. Meanwhile in ST, the battle for second between Mogren, Loitz, and Overgaard raged on unabated since lap 2. When the white flag fell, Marco held track position while Josh looked for a gap in the Swede's armor. As the two approached the carousel, Josh put the Corona car in a seemingly impossible gap. With all 4 wheels off, he slid into the side of Mogren, which sent the number 2 car careening towards the tire barriers. The tussle left just enough room for Stefan to pounce, and the Dane grabbed an opportunistic second place. Loitz followed him home in third, while miles away from it all, Stevenson had taken his 4th win in a row. Season 4 has now reached the halfway mark, meaning drivers' opportunities to fight for the championship are becoming fewer and fewer. Today, the teams bring their trucks to upstate New York for Round 6 held at Watkins Glen International. I'm your host, Joe Peak. With me in the booth is Richard Losper and Sean Ambrose. Sean, with over 60 years of history, this place has had cars from a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different eras putting rubber down.
You're right, Joe. Watkins Glen is an old-school track that takes you back to a golden age in motorsport. Commonly referred to as the Mecca of American road racing, this track has seen some of the greatest to ever strap in. Gurney, Andretti, Bell, Ickx, to name just a few of the greats that have turned laps on this 12-turn, 3.4-mile circuit. The 90 at Turn 1 will bunch up the field right at the start, and then the backstretch is the longest flat-out section of the track and will be an opportunity for drivers to slingshot their opponent and gain position. Then you've got the unusually high banked corners like the carousel and the toe of the boot that make this track so unique. Of course, a big one to watch out for is that fast left-hand penultimate turn. This is a high-commitment corner that has caught out more than its fair share of drivers over the years. After that, the drivers head under that famous bridge and across the finish line.
And it was at that line that we saw last year's controversial finish between Brown and Clayson unfold. But for most of the other drivers, their minds are probably more concerned with those very close powder blue Armco barriers. With how aggressive most of the field has been driving in Season 4, fireworks almost seem guaranteed. The two GS class leaders, Rash and Suominen, have already come to blows multiple times this season. If the two continue to tangle, it could lead to other drivers catching them in the points. Meanwhile, Stevenson has been making his wins in the ST class look effortless as he has trounced the field in every event bar one this season. Can anyone stop his domination? This track may prove to offer an opportunity, with the draft being a huge factor around here. Besides using the powerful slipstream, being adaptable with your pit strategy and avoiding the carnage is the only way to ensure you'll have a chance to fight at the top when the final lap arrives. But we won't find out who will be there for another 90 minutes, so stick around, because when the green flag drops, the action starts at the Continental Endurance Sports Car Series at Watkins Glen International.